Hello, today is August 11th and it is 4:09 p.m. So this video that I'm making right now is basically a continuation from the video that was made yesterday, August 10th, based on my dad, the Greedy Framer, and how he's been trying to desperately argue right now that he had some effect or influence on my life only because me living overseas was overanalyzed, only because of the fact that I found out on July 10th, and I called Ibrahim the Greedy Framer out on trying to run after people like my elementary school teacher, begging her to sleep with him like a drug addicted sex addict that he is. And due to the fact that I found out about his sexual perversions and the fact that he's a drug addict on crystal methamphetamine who ends up in the emergency room once a week overdosing on it. And literally 2 days ago on August 9th, he almost died in the emergency room, literally almost as if he died and came back to life in the emergency room on August the 9th. So basically, yes. And the other thing is, August 7th, obviously, he was in the emergency room again due to overdosing on crystal methamphetamine, like he is in the emergency room once a week. So this video is, so basically, yes, in case they try to argue that I'm a drug addict in revenge, it has to be mentioned that I've never bought street drugs once in my entire life, not even once. I haven't even had a Schedule 5, which is a Robitussin syrup, over-the-counter syrup, in the past at least 10 years of my life, okay? And the other thing is that if I had medications given to me for hyperactivity disorder, I've never once overdosed, causing me to go to the emergency room or anything like that of that sort of nature. When I aged out of it, I told my doctor myself, went over to him, told him myself, I aged out of it, sir, and I do not need it anymore. Please take it out of my, please put it in your computer system that it causes dependency, and I do not, no doctor could ever prescribe it to me ever again. I knew what I was doing. If there was 1% of me that wanted to misuse or abuse prescription medications or anything like that, I would not do that to myself. But I know exactly what is good and bad for me. And as soon as I aged out of it, I went to my doctor and I told him this, to put it in his computer system myself, due to its dependency. And I knew for a fact that I'd aged out of my hyperactivity disorder medication. So there's no chance of me ever wanting to be a drug addict or misusing any drugs. I've never once bought street drugs my entire life. Never overdosed on any medication ever in my entire life, ending up in the emergency room or anything like that of that sort of nature. Except for that, I haven't even had a Schedule 5 Robitussin over-the-counter syrup in the past 10 years of my life, mainly meaning that I haven't had anything that could be considered a controlled substance. There are 5 schedules of controlled substances. Never even had Robitussin syrup that's over the counter in the past 10 years. That's an entire decade of my life. So there's no history of drug addiction or abuse or anything like that of that sort of nature. And after overanalyzing me living overseas, the only thing that they found was that I only worked hard my entire life, had a keenness and eagerness for learning. Since I was a 9-year-old child, which was proven on January 20th, 2026, using what I call the time machine, with them testing out exactly and locking up the entire brain, so autistic part of my brain out, and only leaving the childhood autistic part out to test to see if my brain savant really did start with me being a 9-year-old child staring at the History Channel logo as a child or not. And it was proven that I was telling the truth, that is how my brain savant started off, and then it evolved over to giving me instantaneous photographic memory, innovation, and focusing when I literally became an adult later on in life. So that part has also been proven that it's started off for me as a 9-year-old child staring into a History Channel logo all day long from morning till night. And it was really weird, but I thought that everyone was like this. Then at nighttime, my mother would close the TV and I would go to sleep. And the next day, I would stare in the History Channel logo again from morning till night. And that thing where I love to stare into certain things and I would become obsessed with it as a child. Later on, I found out that it evolved into an autistic brain savant, giving me superhuman powers and photographic memory, instantaneous photographic memory, innovation, and focusing. This was proven on January 20th, 2026, where before I went to Russia, I told them exactly exactly how my brain savant had started off. That when I was a child, a 9-year-old child, my autistic brain savant started off with me liking to do weird things, like, which I later on as an adult found out it was considered weird. Obviously, as a child, you would think that everyone's like this. As a 9-year-old child, I used to like to stare into the History Channel logo, and I would do this from morning till night. I would just stare into it, and even if they had commercials or anything like that going on, and I was like a 9-year-old child at that time. So what ended up happening was I would do this from morning. So I would wake up in the morning, let's say it's the summertime or the weekend. I'd wake up in the morning, I'd start staring at the History Channel logo in the morning, and then at nighttime, I would still be staring into it. And my mother would come over, she'd turn off the TV and tell me to go to sleep. And then I would go to sleep. And the next morning I would wake up and I would do the exact same thing from morning, the moment I would wake up to the moment I would go to sleep. That is how the autistic brain savant of mine started off. I would get the same exact feeling. While staring into the History Channel logo that I got for 4 years, from October 2019 till July 1st, 2023, after which time they never let me stare into the textbook ever again. But I got the exact same feeling, the same exact pleasure, the same exact feeling that I would get as a 9-year-old child staring into the History Channel logo. This was proven on January 20th, 2026, using what I call the time machine that they have, which literally proved beyond a reasonable doubt that this is exactly how the autistic brain savant started off as a 9-year-old child, and then it developed over time until later on in my life, giving me all these superhuman powers. But this is exactly how it had started off. Now, out of extreme envy, law enforcement made claims and theories about me that, oh, he meditated and that's how he got an autistic brain savant, or he fell on his bed, or nothing like that. After using the brain scanner, what ended up happening was they were making up all these theories against me out of extreme envy when I was in Russia, basically, because before I went to Russia, I let them know. And so what ended up happening was people in the government just told law enforcement, they're like, look, you have the tools to test this out. You can find out if he's telling the truth or not. You can literally use this as a time machine and test out what his brain savant was like when he was a 9-year-old child. You do realize this, and law enforcement was just like, oh, seriously, can be? I'm sure they didn't want to know the answer to this, because they like having their own theories as reality, whereas reality itself they don't want to look at. So basically, they would get 10,000 miles away, a fifth person, the person who fabricated the group chat false testimony, then you have Adamji, then you have Maruk, then you have the person in law enforcement overseas who gets a monthly money every month. Now you have a fifth person, which all these 4 people went around trying to find from the overseas pharmacy school. They got a fifth person to testify in court that I was low IQ, could not give exams, I had trouble giving my exams and things of that sort of nature. Made this a false testimony against me on August the 7th, literally 4 days ago. And it got found out as being a complete and total lie, but it would have been a lie, whether it would have been a completely fabricated lie, whether this fifth person would have gotten caught or not caught. It would have been a lie, and mainly due to the fact that if there was 1% chance that this was true in any way, shape, or form, law enforcement would have just done a 30-minute test and they'd win their case, instead of having to find someone 10,000 miles away to make a false testimony out of extreme envy that these girls like me due to what artificial intelligence is saying about my brain savant, and the fact that I cannot be lying about this, since either someone told me what the artificial intelligence report says from all these brain savants, that I'm a triple brain savant and that my powers increase over time, or either someone told me what the artificial intelligence report says, or the second thing that could be is that I could be psychic, due to which I could read the report without anyone telling me, or the third option is that I'm telling the truth. And obviously no one told me, so I'm either psychic or telling the truth. So I'm telling the truth, so that I'm a triple brain savant with powers that are increasing over time, and I'm the most profitable brain savant in the world right now. clearly showing this, proving this from facts and evidences. The other thing is that obviously when I was overseas, law enforcement had my brain savant locked up the entire time, and not only this, they didn't let it freed for even a minute, even a second. And not only this, they confessed in court that in the last biochem exam, law enforcement used so much amnesia drugs on me that I was forced to cancel my exam for the last biochem exam, the final, and that before this, there were numerous other pharmacy finals that they actually used the same amnesia drugs on me while I was in the exam room, and even when I'd be prepping for the exam. And this law enforcement basically confessed in court as that this is something that they were doing against me, and me living overseas and being overanalyzed proved that I had an eagerness and keenness for learning, but since early childhood, but that they're not letting me talk. But that they wouldn't let me study or learn by using severe amnesia drugs on me. So basically, either when I was prepping for the pharmacy finals or when I would be in the exam room, they'd use extreme amnesia drugs to force me to fail, making it a miracle that I was able to run on 2 sandwiches and pack ramen noodles for months or years while I was overseas in pharmacy school, and even slept on the side of the streets, only going between the side of the streets near my pharmacy school and my mother's apartment back and forth in order to get my pharmacy degree. So yes, I've only lived with my mother my entire life. So basically, yes. So this video that I'm making, obviously, so right now I kind of summed up exactly how my brain savant started off in life, as a 9-year-old child, which has now been proven from facts and evidences of their brain scanner and what I call literally the time machine. So all these theories that they might be making about me, that I fell off of my bed or then hit my head, or that I meditated for a few days, are basically envious theories that they're making against me in order to downplay my brain savant in any way, shape, or form that they possibly could. They like twisting the facts as much as possible. When a brain scanner on January 20th, 2026, locks up my entire autistic part of my brain out, and only the childhood autistic part remains, and finds out from facts and evidences, proves beyond a reasonable doubt on January 20th, 2026, that my brain savant actually started off exactly how I was saying, by me staring into the History Channel logo as a 9-year-old child from morning till night. And then at nighttime, literally, my mother would come over and she would turn off the TV. I would go to sleep, and the next day it would start off the same thing. I wake up in the morning staring into the History Channel logo, regardless of whether they had commercials or actual shows or something like that. And then at nighttime, my mother would come over, turn off the TV. This behavior I did not know was abnormal, and my mother didn't know either. She, like, kids watch TV. Later on, when I became an adult, obviously, and my powers evolved and giving me instantaneous photographic memory, innovation, focusing, and that's when I realized that it was autistic brain savant, basically. So basically what ended up happening was, yeah, that law enforcement does not like looking at reality. They do not like looking at reality, and you know this for a fact, that they like twisting facts and lying and fabricating due to the fact that they're getting someone from 10,000 miles away to as a fifth person from overseas, 10,000 miles away, lying and saying that I'm low IQ, bad test taker, cannot give exams, I'm bad at studying or bad at giving exams, when in fact law enforcement has already confessed in court that they locked up my brain savant completely while I was overseas, and used extreme amnesia drugs on me when I'd be giving my finals, like the biochem final and numerous other exams before the biochem final, making a miracle that I even have a overseas PharmD with 0 loans, with 108 exams that I've given while running on 2 sandwiches, a pack of ramen noodles for years, sleeping on the side of the streets near my overseas pharmacy school, only going back and forth between my mother's apartment and that, sleeping on the side of the streets. So yeah, law enforcement obviously likes to not look at reality. use someone from 10,000 miles away to claim that I'm a bad test taker and low IQ and this and that, when in fact this is just a waste of energy, taxpayer money, and effort. When in fact in 30 minutes time, not only would law enforcement do a brain savant test and prove that my brain savant doesn't exist, or I'm a nothing burger, or that even that I'm not Kim Peek Rain Man, but that also the fact that they win their case, not because I put it under oath that I will put it under signature that law enforcement won their case if I'm anything short of Kim Peek Rain Man, but because of the common sense obvious fact that my entire theory against law enforcement is that all they've done since 2001 is run sex scenes with Uncle Joey's in-laws, money fraud that were very stubbornly run till only about 2 months ago when the entire government got involved and forced them to stop it, and that they only became obsessed with me after finding out about my autistic brain savant, making me the most giving me the most profitable brain savant in the world right now. Artificial intelligence marks me as the one human being on the entire planet with the most highest probability chance of becoming extremely rich out of any other human being on the planet. I'm sorry I talk like this. I watch a lot of Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I just got in the habit of talking like this. I can't help it. I'm sorry. Well, anyways, so yes, artificial intelligence has marked my brain savant as literally the most statistical, giving me the one human being on this planet as the highest statistical probability of becoming extremely rich in the fastest amount of time. Law enforcement found out about this due to their brain scanner before I even did. I found out August 9, 2022. They knew it years before then. So basically, they found out about this and they wanted literally me dead. They saw how Miss Deb was behaving around me, wanting me for her daughter and things. They were like, "We're not gonna watch this. This is too envious. This is making us too envious." And so, like, law enforcement tried to literally tried to murder me. They could not do so, mainly because since 2001, all they'd done is run sex scenes with Uncle Joey's in-laws, followed by money fraud, which was very stubbornly run. That, like, the government had to get involved like 2 months ago. They're like, "You either stop this right now, or we're coming over there and stopping it right now." This is how aggressively the government had to tell them to stop the money fraud in order to stop it. That's when they basically stopped it 2 months ago. So basically what ended up happening was artificial intelligence marked my brain savant as literally making me the one human being with the highest statistical probability of becoming extremely rich very, very fast in this world. Due to which they're not letting me talk like right now. Due to which law enforcement wanted to literally murder me. Now they could not murder me due to the fact that this is what they've done since 2001: run sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws. Due to which they had to provide Uncle Joey with sex schemes at the November 2023 funeral, making him look like a sitting governor. Actually, much better than a sitting governor, which would make a sitting governor envious. The kind of top-notch intelligence that Uncle Joey would get from law enforcement and things of that sort of nature. Running money fraud with everyone else and people that were criminals involved in crime scenes like Assad or Bushra Akhtar, and Bushra Akhtar even confessing in front of me in 2019 that she knew about some sort of bad thing, and I stopped her right there. Like, I've never known about it. I don't want to know about it. These people are BFFs with law enforcement, and law enforcement is literally running sex scenes, money fraud, all these things with all of them. Job of law enforcement is not to make contact with people that would be able to help them and how law enforcement would be able to help. Job of law enforcement is to find crimes and investigate and prosecute these crimes. It's not something that they did. So after law enforcement found out about my brain savant being marked by an artificial intelligence as the one human with the highest probability statistical chance of becoming extremely rich really, really fast, law enforcement basically wanted to murder me. It wasn't that easy to murder someone, especially when all you've done in an investigation is do this, sex schemes and money fraud, and I have done absolutely nothing wrong my entire life. That small time period when I would be adult supervised by by not artificial intelligence, one of law enforcement. They're not letting me talk. One of law enforcement's own BFFs, like Uncle Joey, was only after my mother got permission from law enforcement, and only temporarily daily, only for a few years to gain the situs beta mental maturity as a child, blaming me for what one of law enforcement's own BFFs could have said around me is the same as blaming me for what as someone at the PAL Center could have said around me. The PAL Center was basically a place for kids with parents who were basically single mothers working at fast food restaurants, and it was designed and made for kids of that sort of nature. What would end up happening is the single mother working at a fast food restaurant would go with her child to there and just be like, look, sometimes I have morning shifts, but I can't pick up my child for a couple hours even after he gets off from school. Can you guys watch him? He's right across the street from his school. Can you just watch him for like a couple hours? And then when I get off from work, I'll come pick him up over here. I can't leave him he can't stay at school any longer as soon as the bell rings. So can you guys watch him for free? And they would watch me for free. Very nice people, by the way, run by police officers. And yeah, and I've explained in detail how 27 years ago, when I was a 9-year-old child, my mother walked me over there and they handed her an index card to fill out. And yeah, and she would fill out that index. Basically, autistic people have this thing with their memory. They can remember things that normal human beings cannot remember in detail from even like 27 years ago, which obviously I think is really cool and nice. But yeah, blaming me for what one of law enforcement's own BFFs like Uncle Joey could have said around me as a child is the same as blaming me for what someone from the PAL Center could have said around me as a child. You have to remember, it's a child who hasn't even gained the slightest bit of mental maturity yet, and the person saying it would be law enforcement's own BFFs. So if the PAL Center, which is run by police officers, and everyone was very nice and it was nothing like that, but let's say one of the police officers had a BFF over there and he said something bad around me as a child, would that be my fault? No, obviously not. I'm a child. Even if I repeated what they're saying, it's not my fault, and it's due to the obvious force and necessity of a single mother. Like, that's the entire point of that center. It's for people like that are single mothers that working in fast food restaurants, can't afford daycare. They put their kids over there till they get off from work in case they're working like a morning shift. So yes, that is what it was. That was basically the history behind me. But the fact of the matter is, law enforcement had absolutely nothing against me, nothing at all. And at that time, they were running their sex schemes and money fraud with every one of their BFFs, and people like Assad who are involved in the wedding crime, and Bushra Akhtar and Bushra Akhtar is even confessing in 2019 to knowing about other things that she never reported. And I told her to stop and not tell me about it. These people are roaming around, and Assad has kids from prostitutes in places like Thailand that are literally the prostitution capital in the world. And these people are freely roaming around doing whatever they feel like doing. And yeah, it's totally wrong. But yeah. So law enforcement could not literally murder me. So it was August 9th, 2022. Law enforcement had to stare into reality for 6 hours due to a flight and them being scared that it's going to cause mid-flight medical emergencies. And that's when I found out for 6 hours. Obviously, I'm studying. Law enforcement, what they did was they hit my foot with their energy weapons. They only had to lower the air jogging, basically. They didn't have to take away the energy weapons. So they still had the energy weapons on the flight on August 9, 2022 for 6 hours. Yeah, so like my ears were even more locked up. On April 22nd, 2025, these were all the way on the back of my head. My brain on the inside, instead of being like this, it was like this. It was a very powerful, like zing, 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 zing. That's what the whole entire fight is been about recently, from June 24th, 2026, 2 months ago, them freeing exactly that, and finding out that my powers obviously do increase. That's a given. So basically, yeah. when they free my ear. So basically what ended up happening is on that flight on August 9th, 2022, law enforcement lowered the air drugging, but they locked this up even more to make sure that my brain could not go like this at all. But even from the normal state, it was even more like tightened out. So I couldn't use my autistic brain savant at all for 6 hours. But, and then during the entire 6 hours, when I opened up my textbook, obviously I have all these powers that it was like literally a third arm came out of my body for 6 hours. So I'm not going to stop studying. And I opened up Lippincott pharmacology and I just started going off it. Obviously, first time it ever happened to me in my life. And law enforcement saw that. They did not like looking at reality. So what law enforcement immediately started doing was they started hitting my foot like right over here really, really hard with their energy weapon. Torture tools, but I didn't care because obviously it was like a third arm came out of my body. So I literally just kept on studying. I was studying and studying for 6 hours. It was the first time it ever happened to me on my life. It was August 9th, 2022, and they turned down the air jogging for 6 hours. And law enforcement now, due to having a brain scanner, had to stare into reality for 6 hours. It was just not something that law enforcement likes doing. They don't like looking at reality. So they'll get someone from overseas to make a false testimony against me, claiming that I'm really low IQ, stupid, and this and that, spending all this taxpayer money, resources, effort, time, and energy, when in fact over here in Caucasus, they could do a 30-minute brain savant test, proving that and winning their case. Basically because my entire theory against them is this. So on the flight on August 9, 2022 for 6 hours, law enforcement was hitting my foot with their energy weapon tools like right over here. So they still had their energy weapon tools around my ears to make sure my ears could not move at all and my brain could not go like this, how they tested out 2 months ago, June 24th, 2026. But the energy weapon, the air jogging obviously was lowered, due to which I studied for like crazy for 6 hours, because obviously it was like an arm came out of my body. And yeah, so they kept hitting my foot, trying to threaten me that they're going to break it. I knew they couldn't break it because I knew that the entire point of them lowering my air jogging was due to the fact that they didn't want a medical emergency on the flight. So obviously I studied for 6 hours and they did not like looking at reality for 6 hours. So obviously as soon as the flight landed, so the entire flight they kept hitting my foot and I didn't care. I was like, you want to break it, you could break it. I knew they wouldn't break it during the flight because obviously the entire point of lowering air jogging on the flight was due to the fear that it's going to cause mid-flight medical emergency, due to which they lowered air jogging on the flight, but they couldn't they couldn't increase the air jogging. So I studied like crazy, but they kept hitting my foot and I knew for a fact that they wouldn't break it because it's going to cause a medical emergency on the flight, which is the entire point of them lowering the air jogging in the first place, letting me know that I had a brain savant. It was like literally a third arm came out of my body. So for the entire 6 hours I kept studying and smiling despite them hitting my foot and threatening to break my foot. I didn't care because I knew they couldn't break it. But I studied for 6 hours straight and it was like literally a third arm came out of my body. As soon as the flight landed, obviously they broke my foot. I walked with a limp for like days afterwards, but it was I like even after they broke my foot on that flight after it landed, I was pretty happy. I was like, I know something you don't know. Obviously, it was the first time I found out about my brain savant. What I didn't know was they knew too, and the reason they were hitting my foot was because they don't like looking at reality. They don't like looking at the truth. Which explains why right now on August 7th, they had someone 10,000 miles away. The fifth liar overseas claimed that I was low IQ, stupid, too dumb to give exams, I could not study this and that, only be found out I was being fabricated and everything. Common sense dictates that if there was 1% chance that this was true, law enforcement would have basically done a 30-minute brain savant test right here in Caucasville, Maryland, instead of wasting all that taxpayer money, effort, time, and energy from 10,000 miles miles away, finding a fifth person who's not been caught lying yet to now be caught lying, saying that I'm dumb, stupid, too low IQ, cannot study, cannot give exams, and cannot prep for exams, only to be caught as being fabricating every single thing that this person said. Yeah, the common sense dictates if there was 1% chance this was true, law enforcement would have done a 30-minute brain savant test right over here in Caucusville, Maryland, and won their case. Not because I put it under oath that I put it under signature that they won their case, but because of the obvious fact, all law enforcement's done since 2001 run sex schemes with Uncle Joey's in-laws, money fraud, which was only run till only about 2 months ago. The only reason they're obsessed with me is due to my brain savant. And if they prove that my brain savant doesn't exist in a 30-minute brain savant test, then obviously they win their case. That's my entire theory against them, that this is all they've done since 2001, only to become obsessed with me after finding out about my brain savant. And the only reason they're fabricating false testimonies against me is due to the fact that they do not want to see my brain savant perform out in the open for 30 minutes due to the fear that all these girls that they're running their sex schemes on, the power and influence from them would shift over to me if the girls would see my brain savant perform for 30 minutes. And law enforcement cannot do a 30-minute brain savant test to disprove this theory of mine. And obviously they've been caught lying, fabricating false testimonies against me numerous times, including a 10-year-old child claiming 25 years later in mid-January 2026 that I said anti-government things to him, a group chat false testimony coming out of the overseas pharmacy school that I went to, all these lies. They even knew about November 20th before it was fabricated. They knew about it. They fully planned it out against me. Yeah. So basically, yes. Law enforcement's been caught numerous false testimonies only to try to frame me and murder me before anyone could see my brain savant performing out in the open for 30 minutes to help save their life. If they could prove that this brain savant does not exist in 30 minutes, not only would they not have need someone from 10,000 miles away claiming as a fifth person who has not been caught from overseas lying yet, claim that I'm too dumb, stupid, low IQ, and all these things. They could just they wouldn't need all that effort, first of all, and second of all, they would win their case because my entire theory against them would no longer exist, and they would win their case because my entire theory against them no longer exists. My theory is the motive behind all the false testimonies, all the lying, and being obsessed with me despite running sex schemes and money fraud with all the people, every single person I've ever known in my life, including Uncle Joey's in-laws since 2001, due to which they had to give him sex schemes on November 2023 funeral, money fraud with other individuals, criminals like Assad and Bushra Akhtar, who not only committed the wedding crime by being present in it, but also knew about other crimes that Bushra Akhtar was about to tell me in 2019 that they never reported. Yes, law enforcement's entire obsession with me, despite me never committing any crimes or doing anything bad my entire life, or knowing about any wrongdoing that I could have reported, is due to my brain savant. And if this brain savant is disproven in 30 minutes time period, not only would they not need this extra effort from 10,000 miles away while finding a fifth person to lie against me, but that also they would win their case because my entire theory against them doesn't exist. The brain savant doesn't exist. So yes, yeah. So basically, yeah. Law enforcement does not like looking into reality to help save their life at all. We've seen that with the 6-hour-long flight on August 9, 2022, where they were threatening to break my foot if I had continued studying. Studying is not a crime. As soon as the plane landed, they did break my foot, only out of anger that they had to stare into reality for 6 hours straight after being forced to lower the air jogging. Except for this, law enforcement, recently, they fabricated a false testimony against me that I was too low IQ, dumb, and stupid. On August the 7th, only to be caught as the fifth person from overseas lying. Yeah. So, yep. they do not like looking at reality at all, not one bit. So basically, yeah. So this video basically became a video about how law enforcement does not like looking into reality, and I'm gonna make a separate video about how my dad, the greedy framer, had nothing to do with my environment ever in my life, because they're also not letting me talk due to their own guilt and envy against my brain savant, obviously.